All right, you guys wanted it. This is the guide to accuracy. We're going to start with the barrel, work our way through the rest of the gun. You know, I also talked about chokes, right? Taking them off. Let me show you something really cool. Now, when I was doing the P12, right? It started at, well, I think it was 1.2 inches at 100 yards. So then I knew there was an issue somewhere in the barrel. There was something that was holding me back, right? So I take the barrel off, I clean it really good, a light coat of oil. Then I push a slug through, right? I start over on this end. I push the slug through. When I got right to about here, it was snug. I got right to about here, and it went easy. It was like not extremely easy, but you could feel a difference. And that's how really precise you have to be with these barrels. You really got to read them close. So what did I do? I'm going to show you. I figured, what's the worst that could happen? If I drill out the end of the barrel and it doesn't work, I'll go put it on the lathe, right? Because I did this end. The choke, this was what, 17 inches? It was like that long. It was longer. So I figured, what the heck? I'm in a hurry. I don't have the time because I never do with the kids. What do? I take a drill, right? I drill that far into it with a 5/16 drill bit. Then I made a tool to go in there. I'll show you guys, right? I put a crown on the gun. I also I showed how I removed the pellet probe. That had nothing to do with the accuracy. That gave me more power. I was able to back the hammer spring. Can you see? Look where that hammer, right there. The bolt that actually is your hammer tuner. Look how far out it is. I don't even put much stress on this gun firing at the speeds I do. It's very low stress. And I've got the short barrel. So let's get back to barrels though. All right, so let's start. Mexico. All right, so we're gonna start at the breech end. Most important part, right? Well, the back of your barrel, the choke is also too. And that's gonna be depending on what you're shooting. If you're gonna be doing slugs, we're gonna have to worry about the end of the barrel. And if you're shooting just pellets, you really don't have to. So, at the breech end, picture your rifling, right? If we look down the barrel, this is what your rifling looks like. What happens is, when you put a pellet in, these grooves, the part that cuts the grooves in the pellets, they're very sharp and pronounced. So depending on where your slug is, usually there's a little play, right? Or your pellet. So it's going to be sitting a little low. Well, when you go in with it, it will cock on you. And that will cause a deviation in your slug or your pellet. So when I did all my barrels, what I do is, let's picture this as being, right, this right here is your grooves. You're actually going to take, and you can use something like a pencil. I'm gonna make the tooling. I'll show you what you could do. It's going to have an angle like a pencil. You're going to have 220 grit on it. Now I did all this to my gun that shot a .413 at 100 yards. And what you're going to do is, you're going to take it and you're going to grind down this part. You're going to take this part and you're going to make it flush just on the edge of the barrel. So now, what that's going to allow is your pellet or your slug to center itself perfectly every time. So you will no longer have any issues with pellets getting to, I mean, and it's such a micro, very tiny deviation in the pellet or the slug, but it's there. And you got to remember, if it's not perfectly centered, a lot of these slugs only catch on the back from like an 1/8 inch. So it could really be crooked. So this is the first very important thing. You have to have that taper. It's got to be, you don't have to, but it's going to be the difference of you going from maybe 3/4 of an inch to 0.43. So it's up to you to decide what's important to you. If it's easy to get to, like this one is, this is simple, right? Some of the barrels are, your rifling is here, and then you've got the rest of the barrel that has the O-ring over here, and it's hard to get in there. You can make a dowel. What I've done is I've made a dowel the size of the opening. Then I put sandpaper on it, cut it off with a razor blade, run it in there, and take it down. It's extremely important. You don't have to do it, but if you want extreme accuracy, it's needed. All right, here's the second thing. First, you're going to clean the barrel really good. Then you're going to lightly oil it. You're going to take a pellet. I don't have a pellet or a slug. I'm going to put it in the barrel. This is the lapping tool. This is what I used on the P12. Right there. So, you're going to take and you're going to push the pellet in. It's very important. It's going to be snug at first, right? You have to pay attention to what it does when it gets like right here. If it gets easy right after you start putting it in, then you've got to work the breech end with the sandpaper. You're going to use 2500. We'll get to that. And then normally you put them in and it'll go a little, and then you're going to hit a snug spot, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to mark it. You're going to keep going. And when it gets easy, you're going to mark it again. Then pull it out. This is going to be the spot you need to work, right there. And then you're going to go down again. And you're going to go light. And you're just going to take your time, and you're really going to pay attention. If you go fast, you're not going to feel it. Just take your time, and then you'll feel another one where it'll start to snug up a little, right? And it could be minute. Even if it is, mark it. Once again, start going. When you feel it get a little easier, mark it, back it off. That's your next spot you need to work. Now, once you've got that done, then you're going to take, see, this is 17 caliber, 177, so it's small. If you're doing 22, 25 caliber, you want bigger. You're going to take a piece of 2500, 3000. You could use 3000. There's no reason you can't. You're going to take it. See how the end is cut? The taper? That is going to go towards the front of the stick. You're going to take greasy glue. You're going to put some on the end of the stick, right? You're going to stick this on. And you're going to try to keep it straight, right? You want it nice and straight. You're going to roll it. Now, you're thinking, why is that taper there? Very important. First of all, when you're doing this, it's going to take a couple times to get it the right size. So make it a little bigger at first. But once you get it to the right size, that taper there is going to allow the front to go in easier and then snug up back here. And then you're just going to, once you feel that it goes in snug, make it so it goes in easy right up to like a 1/4 inch in. You're going to make this 1.5 inches wide. So once you got, now, you know what? go a 1/2 inch. If it goes in snug, you know, not real easy, but not real tight, at a 1/2 inch, then you're good. Then you're just gonna put a strip of glue back here, because I've got, and do not get the thin, get the medium or the thick. Put your strip of glue, glue that down, and then you're good to go. Now, important, when you're working the barrel, you're gonna do your spots first, right? You're gonna do the first spot. You're gonna go back and forth in that spot. I would do that probably 30 times. Do 30 times on each spot. Do the first one, and you need oil. I forgot to tell you that. Oil the paper. Very important. So you're gonna do your spots. You're gonna do every spot 20, do it 30 times, 30 strokes. Get up to the choke, and then leave the choke for now. Pull it out, clean the barrel, just run a patch through there. Run your pellet or your slug through again. Pellets are easier to work with, slugs are a little tougher, but I use slugs. But, you know, I would say for the first time you're doing this, pellets would probably be easier for you to more aggressively find the bad spots. It's going to be more sensitive. Once you do that, you're going to push a pellet through there again, and you're going to feel if it's still there. And you might find that you have them in different spots now. So you're going to pay attention when you're running that in, if they're in the same spots. Wherever the spots are, go over it again 20 times, 10 times, whatever you think. You're going to have to determine by the tightness of that pellet how much more you think you need to go. Can you screw this up? No, you really can't. You can't hurt it. Then once that's done, if you're gonna have a choke, just run it through the barrel. You know, it might go in easier. It's gonna, once you start working it, it will be easier. And then you just hit the choke. You know, what I do is I get it so it just sticks out, right? Just like that. Just barely sticking out. And then I put my thumb here. And that'll allow you to work the choke. And just clean it up. Maybe 20 times. You're just going to clean that end up. And then we're going to do the polishing tomorrow. I'm going to show you the polishing. It's very, very simple. These sticks I got at a supermarket. I don't know if they're skewers for shish kebabs. It'd be an awfully long shish kebab. They're 36 inches long. I like these things. I went to hardware stores. They have wooden dowels there too. These I think are bamboo, so they don't snap easy. Because when you're going to polish these barrels, you are going to, first, I'm going to show you how you're going to do it. You're going to put a taper. These come tapered, right? You're going to use glue. Let's say this piece of, let's see, this is a piece of, that's a patch, right? You're going to take glue. You're going to stick it right on the end. You know, a drop. You're going to put your patch on. And you're going to get glue on your fingers. So then you're going to just stick it down back and forth. Wait till it dries. And then you're going to use, we'll go over this tomorrow. You're going to use Meguiar's or any kind of aluminum wheel polish. Now, why are you going to use that? Because it's the finest there is. I saw one of my subscribers, thank you, did this process, and he said he could not believe how good it worked. The barrel was like a mirror. His accuracy picked up, and it will, guys. If you're shooting pellets, I've reduced groups to 1/3 of the size they have been. Normally, average is a half. You're going to reduce them in half. So if you're shooting 100 yards and you got 2-inch group, it's going to be 1 inch. I guarantee it. What else can I talk about tonight? It's just very important to pay attention. You know what I can do? Let's talk about valves a little. Let me get a valve. This is just a little bit on these valves, okay? I'm not prepared to show you guys the polishing because the kids were up late. All right, so this is a Krell valve. They are extremely heavy. If you've got a Benjamin, a Keela, I think all the Benjamin guns now are made by Krell. Excellent guns. I just saw a guy shoot what was it, a Krell 500 against a Crown, and it was unbelievable, guys. I cannot believe how good that Krell shot. But let's get back to valves. Okay. Now, how do I get the power out of a 15-inch valve, or 15-inch barrel, right? How is my valve set up in this gun? In this P12. This is the valve assembly for that gun. The funny thing is, all right, so you got your Krell, right? You guys who have had them apart, you know that you have an O-ring here, and it seals that stem. Now, you guys heard the Crony numbers. It's within, this thing is within 4 FPS all the time. It's usually 2. Once in a while, it'll pop off 1, and that is coming from my pellet, my slugs. I don't have a sizer. It should be coming. But let's get back to valves. This valve has no seal. So it just fits that snug in there. It does not have a seal. So what you're going to do with your valves, I really shouldn't because we really got in depth, but what you're going to do is you're going to take the valve out, you're going to put it in this way, and you're going to run it in, and you're going to keep a little tension on it. And you know what you're going to feel? You're going to feel all the machine marks that you cannot see. So this has got to be polished. 2500. Put it in the drill, spin it, polish it. Here's my secret to power. Normally, this has an end cap, right? And between that end cap and this valve is a spring. This is hard to open without the spring. You take the spring right out, guys. You don't run a spring. The only thing you need that spring for is for when you first fill the gun. My Krell filled up pretty easy. Now it's going to be a big thing if you don't have a compressor. If you don't have a compressor, you could put some tape around the end or tape on your needle nose and just tug lightly. You don't even have to pull that hard while someone pumps. This gun, the P12, I don't do anything. I just shove it in there and it seals instantly. But that's how I get the power. You know, these springs that are in these things, did you ever feel the tension on them? They're like 10 pounds of tension. The minute you pull that off, your gun, you're going to be able to reduce. You're going to back that adjuster off for that spring, and you're going to see your FPS spread is going to be super short. I mean, you've got 2,900 psi. Even if you were at 1,500 psi, that pressure keeps your valve closed. There's no reason to have that spring. Pop it right out of there. Any gun I own, springs are all gone. All the guns I have, there's no springs. And when you do that, you know, even if you're shooting pellets, it's going to benefit you because you're going to be able to back your adjuster off and you're going to get more shots because it's easier to open and it's more consistent. Now it's using the air to close it. You no longer have the spring in there. Springs are not perfect. And you will get consistency differences in the rate of the pressure on the spring every time you fire it. I'm telling you, you pop it out. You heard my numbers, right? This gun has no spring. None of my guns with this style valve have springs. Now, I got some more important things to get to on this for you guys. If you pull your spring out, if you're shooting pellets, you're going to get it up. That's going to be at 1,000 feet per second. maybe lighter slugs. Maybe if you have some 30 grains or whatever, I think Nielsen makes 26s. You know, you might be able to get those up high 900s. What I did with mine is I cut this off, right? Gone. I put one like this on there. Now, why did I do that? Let me grab a straw. I want you to picture this, right? Inside your valve housing, you can't see it. There's a nub right in here that goes through the valve. On the other side, there's a spot that sticks up 1/16 of an inch, right? It's got a taper to it. It's got a taper, and on top of that taper, with a flat surface, sits your valve. Now, on the Krell, this is what it looks like. Can you see the difference there in size? So what happens now is, in the Krell, the air, when the valve opens, has to fight to get around. It has to fight to get around the valve. So, what did I do? I took the plastic end from one of these, because I got tons of these. I took it off. So now, what does it look like? Now it looks like this. You see that nice angle cut on that? And it's the exact same size as the opening. So now when it opens, the air is out instantly. And another thing, the weight. It now weighs nothing. This is solid steel. This thing's heavy. So what my changes allowed was the air to get through easier, and I took this weight out of there. So it's probably 6 times lighter. These are pressed on. I didn't heat it because I didn't want to weaken the shaft, because they got issues breaking right where the seal goes in. So I put it in lathe, and I just ground it down with a grinder till I could pull it off. And then I ground down the shaft to fit one of these, pop this out, plop that on there, boom, that was it. I had to cut this down a little too. It was a little, because I had to measure. What you do is you measure the length between the end and the hat right there, right, with a mic. And then when you set and press this on, it's got to be at the same space. You know, you could be a little longer. It's going to change your valve timing. You know, your valve's going to open a little further. That's another thing we're going to talk about, valve timing, how you adjust that. There's a lot to this. You know, it's not hard, and I sure wish I had someone to guide me through it. I've spent a lot of time doing this stuff, but you guys got me. I'm going to help you with it. Tomorrow we're going to do polishing. And tomorrow we are going to drill the choke out of my Airgun, $1,400 gun. I've got the factory barrel still. We're going to drill it. I already shot a group. It was terrible. It was like 1.5 inches, 2 inches at 100 yards. Do I know it's going to work? Yeah, I do. I did it on this gun. You know, I was in a hurry, like I said. I figured, what's the worst that could happen? And I shot that, what, .413? Let me tell you something. I'm not touching the end of this. I don't care. I could cut it and then, you know, re-tap it. Why would I bother? At this point, I'm not touching this gun. It is perfect. And, you know, on your Krells and any gun, you know, if you don't have a regulator, I don't think it's a downfall. I used to think it was, but I'll tell you guys, you know, these guns can make a lot of power. And sometimes a regulator holds you back. You can get a lane regulator. They'll make them factory up to 200 bar for you. So, you know, you can get some power with a lane regulator. Huma, they're good to what, 170? You know, and if you're shooting your gun at 29, let's say my Krell, 2,900 PSI is what it works at. That's where it works great at. So, you know, you can get a regulator to get close to that. And I'll tell you what, The reg in this, I used a lane, and I can show you how to dial up your pressure. There is a way to do it because I upped the pressure to the regulator in this gun at first to 4,100 PSI. Now you got to have a gauge to do it, but you know, the thing is, you can do it in increments. Now, I'm going to show you how to do that. You're going to be able to do that in increments. You'll put a washer in there. I'll show you what washers to use. And put it back in the gun and see where you're at. If your crony numbers are where you want, if you're shooting slugs, you know, it's probably a good thing to do that. Now this gun, because I took that pellet probe off, I'm able to run 3,200 PSI on the reg. So I'm really happy with that. Gave me more shots. But tomorrow I'm gonna do polishing. We're gonna show you that. We'll do it on that Airgun barrel, which I already did, but we'll do it again. And tomorrow we are gonna drill the end of that barrel out to take the choke out. Another thing, I'm gonna show you how to find where you want to drill the choke to. The thing is, if you have purchased a slug barrel, right? You'll notice when you push the pellet through that at the end, the very end, it's not a choke, but it's a little bit of a tightness. That's what I needed to get this to. Now, I'm going to show you exactly how to determine that if you're going to drill your choke out. So you'll be on the money. And I think what we'll do is we'll drill a little less at first and we'll see how it shoots. And if it needs to go a little more, we'll go a little more with it. But we're going to do this together. And once we're done with the barrel, we shoot that Airgun, we see where we're at. Then we're going to get into pulling this thing apart and going through more. We're going to do valves on Kralls. We'll do valves on Hubans. I got a couple extra receiver blocks. We're going to do them all. Air Force guns are excellent, guys. If you have an Air Force, you need to do this to your barrel. I saw a guy shoot 200-yard groups, right? He shot 15 shots. The group was maybe 3 inches. But here's the thing. 8 of those shots went through the same hole. And I mean exactly the same hole. It was unbelievable. He had the camera up close. Do you know what his problem is? He has a choke on his gun. I know what it is. Chokes make flyers, and that's just a fact. If you're shooting long range, you don't want to choke. I don't think you should be afraid to take your choke off, but let's see. When this video comes out, this one I'm gonna post tonight. When the last one comes out, when I shoot the gun, we'll be able to gauge more. But I already know, guys. I already know it works because this gun went from 1.2 to 0.413. So, yeah. You guys no longer have to worry about trying to take your gun to a machine shop or a gunsmith. And the gunsmiths don't even want to do it. They give you a hard time. So now you're going to be able to do this, you know, the way I show you. And like I said, we'll get into it more. We're going to get into how far you need to go in the choke. You need that little snugness. And we're going to do barrel polishing too. So I am getting to bed, guys. It is almost 12. I will talk to you again tomorrow on tomorrow's video.